You know, I don't think I ever imagined that the number of times I had been arrested, as a state senator, would be a basis for some level of credibility on the issue that I would be talking about. So as a state senator, I'm afraid that's true. And it so happens that 2 years after I left elected office, I came back and I was arrested, standing in the state senate, outside the state senate chambers, where I'd served passing laws for 8 years. You know, my arrest was not an accident. 44 of us trained together, and we came and stood with one hand over our mouths, which is a gesture that symbolizes the way our state has remained silent on an issue that we care deeply about. You know, I think that it's wild to understand that we stood there with, I had grandmothers and clergy and straight grandparents, parents, I stood with other gay and transgender people. And what's sad is that it was just so easy for those who are in positions of power, and you may know this, to say no, to do nothing when asked to take up an issue. One of the things that was remarkable too was when the arrests began, they called us bullies. They said that we were just throwing tantrums in order to get our way when we hadn't. But I'm kind of sure that that is something that the powerful say when the powerless do something that neither they nor the public can possibly ignore. So after the arrests, everywhere they went, people asked them about the bill to add the words. That's what we call it, including gay and transgender people in Idaho's anti-discrimination laws. You see, when I was first elected, I managed to be the first openly gay elected official in Idaho. But a lot of my colleagues didn't think they'd ever met anyone gay before. They unfortunately, they didn't really realize that that in this state, and you may not realize this either, that people can be fired, evicted, and refuse service in restaurants just because they're gay and transgender. That's true to this day. So I'll tell you, I tried everything, and I failed. I failed with dignity for 7 years. Until one day, something kind of amazing happened. I gathered together a group of young people, and slowly and gently, we began to break the rules. We started posting sticky notes on the glass doors in the Capitol. These were bearing messages saying, add the words. And of course, they took these down. They made it a $100 fine to post sticky notes. So we put up more. We put up thousands more from all over the state, all over the Capitol. And it was beautiful. But still, they didn't have a hearing or pass our bill. One day I met Julie Zika. Julie was someone I stopped to take a photograph of with her sticky note. And her sticky note read, I lost my son to intolerance. Please add the words so we don't lose any more kids. You know, unfortunately, because our laws in Idaho and federally do nothing, I'm the person that people so often come to when they've been beaten in an alleyway, when they lose a job or an apartment due to an act of discrimination, or when their own beautiful children take their lives. So it wasn't an option for me just to walk away or just to keep doing what I had done before. So 2 years after I left office, I returned. I returned to organize civil disobedience. I left with that express thought in mind. Now, it's quite powerful to realize that that I gave up formal power at that time. I walked away from my access to the 7th floor, the chambers, to the committee rooms, the back hallways. I became an informal, sometimes leader, sometimes follower, one of many, really. And those of you who may have faced discrimination yourselves or had an issue that you've seen for too long unaddressed, maybe you, like me, have a complex relationship with power and with powerlessness. You know, I want you to think for a second. There may be an issue that you feel really strongly about. Would you go to jail for that issue? How many times? For how long? At what cost to yourself, your family, your ability to hold a job or secure your future? Would you face water cannons, tear gas, tanks? I want you to think about what it is you've been unwilling to give up in order to succeed at what you've tried at. What is it that holds you back? Now, I must say that I was told so many times, what many of us know, which is we are conditioned, right, to save face and to project a sense of powerfulness and success, right? So I was told to save my bullets, to keep my powder dry. You know, these are all military analogies for being quiet, being patient, and staying in my place. But some of the most powerful people in the world are people who have nothing left to lose. They think they have nothing left to lose, right? And every day around the world, people do try to change what they see from a place of anger. You know, from Stonewall to Ferguson, single acts that are taken out of desperation can taint entire work that people have done, amazing, beautiful work, or make those who are resisting change have an excuse for dismissing an entire movement, right? That's sad. But here you have the governor's office. It's quite something to realize that, we trained. We had the luxury of training. We knew that if we didn't, and if we acted from a place of anger, we would give the powerful an excuse to make victims of themselves. Now, all over the Capitol, our state capitol, just like all over the world today, there are cameras everywhere. So we knew that the image of any one of us taken at any time could be used to represent all of us. Every single one of us. So all of us had to be perfect. We had to make sure that at no moment the image that we projected was one of anger, of aggression, or of disrespect. We knew that in that, we had to be perfect. Now, you see in this how beautiful that image is. That image is a powerful one, and for us, we hoped it would carry beyond the walls, which I think it did. Think of the congressional staffers, for example, who walked out of the nation's capital last year with their hands up in support of those facing racism and police brutality. Like them, we hope that the actions we take, they carry a message of the pain and of the harm that's being done. Like many powerful movements before us, we knew that we had to instill in ourselves a practice of nonviolence, civility, and respect. But not only for each other, but for the lawmakers themselves, men who for a decade had refused to even allow a public hearing on our bill. You know, Rosa Parks, for example, she wasn't just a person who was tired of the humiliating indignity of going to the back of the bus. She represented thousands who faced that every day. What she did was thoughtful and strategic. And she, too, was trained. She was trained to face the police and also the reactions of other riders, regardless what they did. I live in a state where gay people, unfortunately, are still often feared. And I think that's because we are too often also invisible. And so when I was elected, I had to put a face on the gay community for my colleagues. I was the good gay. I seriously doubt anybody would call me that now. So in that particular State House, what I did was really different, but it was important. I was a voice for the losing side. You know, somebody has to speak for the losing side, right? But that wasn't easy. When we get to that point where up so much, I think one of the powerful things we forget is how many times you should go on. In the end, people like me had to stand with 120 others who gave up so much. They were arrested. They had mug shots and fingerprints taken. They had to pay bail and fines. And they had to do community service. But I think you'll find that many of those folks, they would spend years in jail or give up their lives to stop the pain that they've seen. Now, as a person who served in a position of power, both in government and nonprofit organizations, I know that sometimes we're a little bit too attached to images of ourselves as winners. And we sometimes become too fixated on the organizations that we have themselves. We grow our boards of directors, raise funds, spend time on foundation funding, 100-page strategic plans, right? And bylaws. While all over the world at the same time, people are organizing informally. What they do is powerful and participatory. And in fact, when you look at it, they use new power, right? Which has a shared ownership. And in fact, sometimes they use images to convey the harm that they see in the world. Now, I think it's very important that we involve the new generation of global activists, those like these amazing people who stand in jail cells with me in Boise, Idaho. The problem is, and this has been true for so long, that the disenfranchised often mistrust the organizations that refuse to involve their voices or involve them in decision-making. You know, organizations that don't look like them are run by people who don't look like them because, you know, we're white, older, male, wealthy, or just really attached to the way we do things. Now think to yourself, could you change this? Is there something you could do differently in your organization? Why not? You know, we're close in Idaho. And even if we prevail and our law is passed, there'll be states that are left behind. Those states, like us, ask you to step up and talk to your own Congress members. Tell them to end our nation's silence and protect the lives of gay and transgender people. People like Joe Kibbe. Joe is a young man who was beaten in an alleyway with his best friend when he was in high school. In the aftermath, his best friend took his life, and Joe found him hanging from a tree one morning in a yard. Joe is one of the leaders in our movement, and with him, our work is so powerful. I mean, all across the spectrum of human rights, we have to consider more often when to let go of formal power, when to do things that are strategic and thoughtful. We have to involve those who are passionate, those people who are at the end of their patience, with a little left to lose. You know, together, we can create something that's vivid and strategic. We can use images in a way that are isolated incidents that we can pull together in a way that manages to be not just one, but a many. Peaceful and respectful, but most of all powerful because of our willingness to stand up, even if we lose.